All right. All right, gang. I'm just going to make sure I have everything set up correctly because you never know. Welcome to my mentoring session for September. We're actually in September. Hard to believe we're down the home stretch for the year. And as you guys know, this part of the year just goes like that, very fast. And, it's a good time to reevaluate. I always think this is kind of the home stretch. I ran track back when I was in high school and college. And I always thought about that last bend or that last 200 meters is when you would pick up some speed, pick up some steam, and try to like bring it in, maybe win the race, depending on what race you're running. And I kind of think of that as a fall as well. This is kind of like you had the summer, there might have been a little bit of a lull, maybe not, but then it's like, okay, September, let's bring it on home. Let's be really happy when we finish the year come the end of December. And just a little refresher on my business, Ryan Payne. I have a wealth management firm, Payne Capital Management, and I can talk to you about anything business building relationship. I built my business from the ground up, still building it, still in the hustle. And in addition to that, anything that you want to talk about just when it comes to financial planning, wealth management, investing your money, all those questions, I'm happy to answer. And like every segment we do every month, we got some good questions. So let's get right into it and let's get into the groove here. So first question comes in. Let's see if I can get that light, this one off. Okay, light is done. Well, actually, hang on a second here. I want to give you guys the best lighting I possibly can during your mentoring session. So I'll see if I can get that back on. Okay, here we go. So first question comes in from Marlena Carter. She writes in, what are good options today for excess capital? I have in my working capital account right now. And just a business description and background. I own a pet grooming business. What are the strategies I can use to make more money with excess cash in business? Should I take it personally and invest, or are there things I can do with it inside my business? Okay, this is a really good question. So when it comes to excess capital in your business, like first off, you always want to keep enough cash flow around just in case that you have an emergency. So you got to figure out what your working capital should be. But above and beyond that, if you're not going to reinvest that money back into your business, like for more products or more services, marketing, whatever it is, I'm always of the mind that you want to have a certain percentage of whatever you make every year in your business, whatever excess cash you have lying around should go to personal savings. And, I think like my philosophy is you never want to be so tied up in your business that you're so predicated on like your business has to do well or you're screwed. Along the way, as you're making money, you're building your business, it's always good to put some business money or some of that money capital to the side so you build this pile of cash over here. And by having that, I think it makes you a much more confident and better business owner because, it's not the proverbial like, oh my God, so much pressure. I've got to sell my business for a big number, or I can't retire, or I can't have financial independence. But if you have this war chest over here and your business is going well, you can be more at ease in the decisions you make with your business. And every decision you make with your business isn't life or death, especially if you want to sell your business. You never want to be in a position, I've had clients like this, where they had to sell their business or they were screwed, they had no savings, and they ended up making a bad decision when it came to negotiations, right? You want to be able to walk away from deals. You want to be in a position of strength, not weakness. Okay, that's a little bit of a tangent, so let's bring that back full circle here. So what that means with your business is, you want to have some of that money for savings. And it sounds like I'm hearing from you, Marlena, is you probably have some excess capital that could go into a savings account, maybe an investment account so you can grow some money long-term, so you can live off of it maybe at some point in the future. So I think if you have excess capital like that you can use for your personal investment to build your personal path to what I would call financial independence, the first thing that I would look at since you're a business owner is set up a great retirement plan for your business. And what I mean by that is like you can set up an account. I don't know if you have employees, because then you have to factor in, do I have to contribute for my employees? A lot of cases, if they're independent contractors, you don't. But you have to work these numbers out. But it's ideal if you can get some money away pre-tax for yourself and some sort of retirement account for your business. And what I like about that is, as a business owner, and a lot of my clients are business owners, including myself, is a lot of times you can set up a really customized plan for you. Whereas if you work for a company, You typically have a 401k, you have contribution limits to that, and you have a lot less flexibility. So what I would start to explore is there, what kind of account can I set up for myself? Or, if you need help with this, I have pension experts I work with. Just hit me up, with one of those Facebook messages, whatever. But everybody should be doing this. If you have excess capital that you're taking out of your business, that you're just saving in a savings account or elsewhere, it's so advantageous to set up a retirement account for your business. And a lot of these pension people, for very, very small amounts, it doesn't have to be a lot of large sums of money to set up a plan like this, maybe a couple grand to a couple $100, depending on what kind of plan you set up. Basically is you can set something up really, really, I would say, sweet for yourself. And again, you can do it in a way that's like really beneficial, where you're getting a lot of pre-tax benefits. In some cases, you can set it up so you have an account where the money grows tax-free forever. You can take the growth out tax-free with Roth 401ks. So there's a lot of things you can do there. So I think the long story short is, yes, definitely take a percentage of what you make every year. Don't reinvest it all back into the business. Take a small percentage, bigger percent, depending on how established your business is, and start setting it aside for you for financial independence. But most importantly, look at some of the tax benefits through a retirement plan through your business that you can set up. That's huge. I do it for my business. I optimize it. We're putting a lot away pre-tax every year, me and my partner, and it's been just like an awesome vehicle for our business to create some wealth. And again, diversify away from my business. I don't want to be in a position where it's all or none with my business ever. So hopefully that's helpful. Again, hit me up. Anyone who's watching this who wants to know a little bit more about how to set up a plan for your business, just leave a comment in the section here. I'll follow up with everybody on that. I've got some great ways, some great strategies, and I've got some great pension experts I work with that can help you with that. All right. Next question coming in is from Allison Koyanaji. I think I'm saying that right. And Allison writes in, would you recommend self-funding or getting an investor for a new product-based business? Okay, so a little background on Allison here. Digital marketing agency, last name pronounced, you're telling me now, Koyanaji. Okay, it's a tough one, but once you break it out that way, it's much more easily digestible. I have an idea for a new business. The only problem is that I've created a product from scratch. I've run a few other numbers, not all, to get a prototype made and the possible profit margin and so forth. There is definitely a market for this, and although I don't want to say anything specific, it falls into the health/fitness industry. It'll be worth it to create, but I'm not sure if I should self-fund this project or get an investor, especially around this COVID time because I'm really tight with spending. Okay, this is a great question. And I talked about this a little bit on my last Facebook Live. And the first thing I would look at is, if it's going to be debt or equity. Ideally, if you're not going to self-fund, which it sounds like if you can use someone else's cash here, that would be really advantageous, especially given COVID right now. I would look at any sort of debt funding versus any sort of equity that you don't have to give away. Debt's always better than equity, depending on the interest rate. And right now, interest rates are very, very low. So I don't know if there's like small business loans through the bank you can look into, but I would look at your debt financing options first, and especially right now, given the fact that interest rates are so cheap. So if you can get a reasonable rate and you can figure out the kind of rate of return that you can get on this product once you turn it on, and you can pay that loan off relatively quickly, then you can retain all the equity and you didn't have to use any of your capital out of pocket, which sounds like you want to hold on to right now. Now, if that's not an option, I don't know. If you're really confident in your ROI on this, you're going to have an ROI, well, maybe it's better to use your capital versus getting an investor in there. Or, again, if it's not feasible for you to do it on your own, then yeah, I think you're stuck with getting another investor in there. But me personally, I'm not a big fan of just giving up equity, especially if it's your idea, something you're going to execute on. So if you can get away with not giving someone else equity, and again, you can use the fact that interest rates are really low here, that'd be my first choice. So, I would look at those options. There's a lot of opportunity to get capital right now. I feel like liquidity more than ever with interest rates so low. We've had the PPP loans and there's other government programs out there. There's a lot of ways to finance relatively cheaply right now. So I would do that investigation first. So, I always break it down into you have like what I call good debt and bad debt. A lot of us shy away from debt because, we think about credit cards and places where you can be paying like astronomical interest rates, which I never recommend because you just never get out of the hole when you do that. But if you can use anything that's like a low interest credit card, same thing with the mortgage, right? The whole idea there is if you can refinance your mortgage right now, or you can borrow from the bank cheaply, like that's always preferable than just paying for like a house or something outright, especially if you know that money can be used better somewhere else. It's all about that spread or arbitrage of what rate am I borrowing at? And if I take that money that I'm borrowing, can I get a rate of return that's higher than that? And clearly, the lower the borrowing rate is on that money, the better opportunity that you have to grow that capital at a faster rate, which again is more advantageous than, in this case, like funding your business by yourself, or if it's like property or anything else that you're buying using leverage. So there's good leverage and bad leverage is another way of saying that. So let me know if you have any more questions about that. But again, use debt versus equity if you can do it. If you can't, then try not to dilute yourself too much or just use your own capital if you're really confident on the idea. Next question comes in from Adam Drake. Adam writes in, mindset question. What process or system do you use to manage your tasks each day? This is a good question. I'm excited to get into this one. And Adam's background is I manage a team of financial advisors, similar to me, and am recruiting more advisors. I own the company. On a daily basis, I'm tweaking my systems, which is adding up to a big improvement over time. Also, at any given moment, I'm working on game changer deals, acquisitions, hires, partnerships, of which I may land a few a year. The regular new business, doubles and triples, continues to flow in, but I obviously want more. What are the keys to getting to the next level in my business? Okay, so Adam, I know you and I have talked a bit in the past. You asked me a question on my last video, and I'm a big advocate of building systems. Building systems that you can leverage and you can build off of is just huge over time. You want to build your business for scale. So I like the fact that you're asking this question about processes, systems used to manage your days. I believe in simplicity over complexity always. Like I don't want to have 1,000 things coming at me every day, because I think if you really want to be, and it sounds like you want to do this and you're doing this, be in the business development side of things, the old proverbial working on your business as opposed to working in your business. Like that's the difference between having a really big business and never getting out of your own way and kind of just like muddling along, and you never see the growth rates that you really want to see. And, I've been through a lot of these painful amalgamations in my own business over time. Like I've been through a lot of those phases where we had systems, and I've talked about this in the past, that just weren't built to grow a bigger business. And we're always struggling and always constantly reconfiguring that, right? So the same thing for yourself. So I think like first thing I'll show you here, this is literally my list. This is my list for today. It's not a very big list, okay? And I think that's good. I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like 10 things on my list. Now, the reason I do that, and I like the physical list like this, pretty old school, is I like having a list because I can cross things off. And I just feel like having that like mental accomplishment of, being able to cross things off your list is huge. And it's just like a psychological thing. Anyone who's played sports, a lot of it has to do with just competing. There's an old saying someone once gave me that I love, and I use this all the time. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So having a daily task list, and some people actually don't like this, which I think is crazy. I think you should have one, but I don't think it should be a big list, because you need to make room in your schedule every day for all the incoming things that are going to happen. Build your schedule so you can be as proactive as possible, but know that during the day, things are going to come up. You're a business owner, let's be real about it. It's not going to be the smooth, perfect thing the way the day goes. You've got to have some room in there for other things that are going to pop up. So if you jam your schedule from the beginning of the day, you're not leaving yourself any time for all the unexpected things that can happen during the day. So I would say, like, you seem very focused on, like, okay, what are the things that are going to leverage my business the most? Obviously, acquisitions, hires, partnerships are going to be way, way more effective from a leverage perspective than you like working on one proposal, right? So, I think that's the same thing here is like, what are the 10 things I can do that are going to have the most leverage over my day? And I like to rank it too during the day. Like I'll go through and I'll say, okay, I'm going to do this first. I'm going to do the second. This is minus anything that you have actually scheduled into the day. But I think that's a great way to do it. And I try to do my task list the night before or early the next morning. So when it's time for game time, everything's kind of lined up in front of me and I can just go and I don't have to do a lot of thinking. It's like you don't want to have to think about your game in the middle of the game. Like the game plan should already be set up. You shouldn't be like working on your game plan and the clock is already ticking and the game has started. The gun has gone off, to use more of a track analogy. So I think that's really, really important. And I know I've struggled with this and this is the best system I've come up with. And it works really, really well. When it's almost like there's another good saying, something along the lines of, either you're running the day or the day is running you. And I think that's so perfect. So the more organized you are and the more you're being proactive and doing the things that leverage your day, you have more control over your day. So another piece of advice I have, and this depends on your industry, and Adam may already do this, is I start my day very, very early. Especially in the financial services industry, there's a lot of leverage in starting your day early. Like if you wait till 9 o'clock and all of a sudden the emails are coming in, you're playing defense, you just never get out of that mode during the day. Again, the difference between the day running you and running the day. Whereas I feel like if I get up early, for me, I like to get my workout in, get it out of the way early. I always get the hard stuff, or, maybe a better way of saying get the hard shit done early, right? More crass way of saying that. But I think getting the stuff done early in the day makes such a difference. Because then again, you get that momentum in your day. You're crossing things off your list. You're getting them out of the way. You feel accomplished. And then like those little tasks that you never get to do because you're like, I just don't want to do it. I always find I get this momentum where around like 2 or 3 o'clock. And again, like at that point, I could be getting close to finish my day if I've started early. It's like, man, I've just cleaned up this whole list. Let me just get those 1 or 2 things that I didn't really want to do. Let me cross them off my list too. Then I'm going to feel really, really good about myself. So I think measuring everything is key. It's critical. And I think, again, bringing it down to that daily list just adds so much leverage and momentum to your life. And then you can go extrapolate out. Like I actually have like things like on a bigger scale that I want to do during the week that I measure. Like even things when it comes to your workouts, you may do this too. But my goal is 5 days a week. I cross that off on a spreadsheet. And if you can get yourself an accountability partner, it can be helpful too. Like I actually mentor a couple college kids and I have a spreadsheet and I keep a contest with them on like, okay, like I want to get 5 of these projects done this week and I cross it off and they cross it off on a Google Doc. So anything it creates, like I think, again, kind of going back to talking about competition and things like that you can create where your mind is actively thinking about, oh my God, I want to get my X's on that spreadsheet. Or I want to get those things crossed off my list. I think they're really powerful, effective tools. Like, my philosophy is kind of like by any means necessary, whatever it takes to get the job done. Who cares if you're lazy, not lazy? It doesn't matter. Whatever forces you to do the things you need to do, whatever games you need to play with yourself, do it. That's why I've worked with a personal trainer for like literally 15 years because I just know if I'm forced to meet somebody and work out twice a week, that's going to create momentum. And I meet my friend to run once a week. So that's 3 days a week and then there's only 2 days I have to do it on my own. But the more you have to make yourself accountable, any way you can force yourself, don't feel bad about it. We're all lazy by nature. So we just got to force ourselves into these processes. And then you're like a much happier person as well. So hopefully that's helpful. But I think that will help you get to the next level. And again, going back to what we talked about last time, is build your processes and systems so that can take on a much bigger level of business than you have today. Always think about it from that perspective. If I'm going to do this process, if I'm doing it once or twice, can I do it 100 times and it's just as efficient and as effective? So always keep that in mind because, again, it's all about working on your business, not in your business. Especially if you want to build a bigger business, you've got to design that framework now, not later when the business comes. Okay, cool. So hopefully that it's helpful. There's also another thing here from Adam I did miss. Elevator pitch. My company, Highland Investment Advisors, provides a turnkey asset management program helping independent financial advisors eliminate back office paperwork, headaches, and grow fee-based practices. were built by advisors for advisors to empower reps to be their client's CIO. That's a great mission statement, by the way. I love that. Very concise. Again, simplicity over complexity. Really well done on that. I really, really dig that. Okay, so we're moving and grooving here, guys. Next question comes in from Jocelyn Padilla. She writes in, if you were asked to be interviewed on a podcast or Zoom or show, what are the things you would do to vet the show and the other person to be sure they fit your brand and morals/beliefs and culture? And here's a little bit of background on Jocelyn's business. I'm a sexual wellness intimacy coach. Adventurous, Aphrodite focuses on adult workshops, private group coaching, passion parties. Reason for the question: I'm leveraging myself as an authority expert. I have people constantly reaching out to have me on their show. Thank you. I think here, Jocelyn, it sounds like it's good that people actually want you on your show. That's a great place to start. My business in financial services, you have to beg to people. You have to beg to be on people's shows because it's just not as interesting as your topic. So I think that part's really cool. I would just say from my perspective, it's really about target audience, right? And again, going back to leverage, I would find out the audience size of the people that these shows you would be going on and make sure it's the target demographic. And you can ask these shows bluntly, like, hey, how many people listen to your show and who is your target demographic, and make sure that they're aligned. Now, part of me, depending on where you are in this process, I think more is better than less initially. I'll give you an example in my own career. I do a lot of media. I do a lot of national TV now. But you don't start there, right? You start doing these smaller, more esoteric type of interviews so you can kind of screw up and it doesn't matter. No one's watching anyway. I used to do this I-24 News. I used to 7 o'clock at night, I would go to the studio and probably nobody's watching anyway. But it was great practice. It was a great place to refine my pitch, get in front of the camera and all those things. And the other thing is you may not know 100% who your market is. You might, but there might be people that you don't even realize are part of that market as well that might be very interested in what you have to provide and the advice that you might be able to give that you might not even thought might be a potential client for you. So, depending on, again, how early on you are and how much time you have, I would recommend more is better than less. Get the experience. Get in front of as many people as you can, and then later you can get more selective as you go along. But if you're getting hit up anyway way too many times, you couldn't do all the interviews that they're asking you to do anyway. Well, if that's the case, then again, I would go back to that. Find out the demographic and find out how many people are actually listening to their show. That can be great leverage. And at that point, you can be more selective. And it sounds like to me, you're kind of in demand because no one's, trust me, reaching out to me. Well, in some cases, yes, now, but in the beginning, no way anyone was reaching out to say, hey, I want you to speak or anything like that. So that's a good head start. But they're the questions I would ask. And again, I think more is better than less, especially if you have the time to do it. Because the other thing is, too, you got to remember doing anything like a podcast, a Zoom show, it's not just as simple, and you might already know this, so I don't know if I'm speaking to you directly, but anybody watching this is probably good advice, it's a skill set. It takes time to hone in your skills, and it takes years to hone in your skills. I can tell you, in my experience doing a radio show, now doing a podcast, and doing media appearances, it's a lot of work. It's something you constantly refine and get better at. You're never at a point where you're like, damn, I kill this. You're always working to get better and better. So the only way to get better and better and better is more and more experience. Just keep doing it over and over again. It gets to a point where, you've got to have a lot of hours booked where you start to actually see real gains in these type of things. So, I just think if you're going to get into the media game at all, you've got to practice. You've got to take as many opportunities as you possibly can. And it's a long, long ROI. That's the other part of it as well. But having said that, sounds like you've got a brand. You've got people hitting you up. And I think that's great. And again, if you can be selective, do it. But I think that's really cool, by the way. And be curious to see how you make out with doing some of those shows and how it helps your brand potentially. It helps you grow your audience. So definitely hit me back on that with how you're doing with that. Okay, cool. We're moving and grooving. Last question we've got coming in from Lisa Nitkowski. And Lisa writes in, what would you do if there's a business you want to start, but you don't have an experience in that industry, product, or service. And a little background here. I'm in the beginning stages as an entrepreneur. Even though I have some experience, I've been trying to determine what business I want to start, and I think I found one, but I don't have experience in that business. What would you do if you were in my shoes? You knew that what kind of business you wanted to start. What are some of the first steps that you would take? I'm super excited and would love to know what you would do since you have experience. Well, I'm in a business that I know and a business that I started in. Like, I started with a big firm before I started my business. So just put that caveat out there. Now, what I would do is, if there's other people in the business that you want to be in, and I'm not sure exactly what that is, I don't think you wrote in here the background of the actual business, is I'm a big believer in reverse engineering and not reinventing the wheel, especially when you start. There's an old saying, you got to learn the rules before you can break the rules. So I would just find someone who's doing what you want to do. Ideally, if it's a regional business, meaning like maybe if you're in New York and they're in California and you wouldn't have a competing business because you're in different locations or something like that, a lot of times you can get advice from somebody who's already the top dog in your business. If you reach out to people politely and just say, hey, I love what you're doing, I'm looking to start in my business doing the same thing. Again, if it's not in a competing market, because they're not going to want to talk to you. I would love to ask for your business advice. It's a very flattering way to go. And I think that you can glean a lot. Like, I'll give you an example too. One of my good friends right now is looking to start his first franchise. And I just had him talk to all my connections that run franchises so that he could pick their brains and he could learn all the ins and outs before he does it. So I just think there's always a blueprint for every business, and someone's already doing it successfully. Get that blueprint. And this is actually the funny thing too for this guy that's actually going to start this franchise, is everyone told him the same thing. Whatever the franchise's blueprint is, they have their blueprint for how you're supposed to run that franchise, if it's a McDonald's or 7-Eleven, whatever it is, they pretty much tell you step by step what to do. And the advice for all these franchise owners to my friend was, don't veer from the strategy. They already know it cold. Everything they're going to tell you to do is the right way to do it. Don't try to put your own spin on it. Don't get creative. Follow the instructions. Follow the manual. Okay, so I think that's how I would start anything. And we do this with all our business ventures too, is we start small. We don't leverage up on things ahead of time. Like, I always talk about the radio as a good example of that. I just copied the formula of other people's shows that were not in competing markets as me. A lot of them were insurance people down south, and we just copied their model. Now, after doing it for 5 years, it's completely different now because we learned the game, we learned how to play it, and now I think we do it better because now we can put our own spin on it. Again, learn the rules before you break the rules. Like, they had their very specific format for how to do the radio show when we first did it. In fact, there was a lot of content in there that was already plugged in that we didn't have to do. So it was, purely plug and play. Now we do it's our own show. It's completely scripted by us. It's our own content. But again, we started out by following the manual. So I think that's really, really important. It saves so much time, so much money, so much heartache trying to do it and I love the fact that you're very excited about this, Lisa. And I think that's the problem too. When we get really excited, we want to do our way. We want to do things with our stamp on it. And the thing is, you will, but find that blueprint first. Find that blueprint, copy it. Again, if someone else is doing it successfully, you can do it successfully. We're all cut from the same cloth. So that's what I would look at. And that's exactly where I'd go first. There's so many people out there, even me, I'm giving my time today to give you my business experience. So many successful business people do that. They'll take the time to talk to you. Again, as long as they're not a head-on competitor or you're not looking to be a head-on competitor, you'd be really surprised. And I like doing this too just because it reminds me of oh shit, this is what I need to do in my business right now. Or, I could be doing this better. And this is a good reminder just talking about things I need to do better with my own business. And we all like to share, and it's flattering to share, your business knowledge and the things that you've learned over the years, because at home, no one wants to hear about your business successes. My girlfriend doesn't want to hear about what I'm doing anymore. She's tired of it. I'm not to say she's not very supportive, but you get to a point where, people love to share their ideas because you don't get asked enough. And I think that's a great way to go. So hopefully that's helpful. Great questions this time around. Again, as always, enjoy doing this. And, submit your questions and I'll see if there's any questions in the comments, which there is not. So we're almost 30 minutes perfectly. So that's great. We could probably end here. But yeah, so look, guys, again, come full circle. End of the year here. Let's finish strong. I know I am. I'm putting a lot of time in here, just making the most of these last almost 3.5 months now. It's crazy. September is almost halfway there. So time is not our ally. But I wish everyone success. Great questions. Keep them coming in. Any questions you have, love answering them every month on this Facebook Live. Anything you want clarification on, anything you want to get a little bit deeper on question-wise, just put in the comments section of this. We'll keep it simple, and I'll respond to everything and make sure that you guys are getting the resources and advice that you need. So appreciate all of you. Always great to do this. Enjoy the rest of your September. We'll hit it up again. We'll hit it up again next month. Stay loose, keep an open mind, and we'll take it from there. Thank you.